Alright, so it's another evening at the shop. So I've got a couple things to work on. The first one is the roto camera rig. So I'm going to be working on the backpack for that, getting a piece of wood or something in here so I can mount a camera to the backpack and have it really stable and sturdy while attached to your back. That'll be good. The other thing is not longboard related, but is also pretty cool. It is this camping lantern I made. So this is really cool. It's just an LED lantern, but it uses this battery pack to, is this the right way? Yep. It's got this battery pack that just slides in and out of stuff, and the plastic's all busted on it, you can see here. So I've just got to replace the plastic with something a little bit thicker that will last longer, and that should be a really easy project, and this should be a really easy project, so hopefully it's not a long evening here tonight. And then I can finish this up some other time when I get to it. Start off, let's get this taken apart so we know what we're dealing with. So it's been held together with tape and glue, and none of that really worked. But it's really simple on the inside. It's just these pieces mounted to this tiny little wooden frame. Like that. There we go. Maybe I could just keep it like that. So let's take a look at that actually. It's very bright. It's very, without the diffuser on it, it's just very harsh. You do not want that glaring in your eyes. So diffuser is important. So I've got this material here. Same stuff, but quite a bit thicker. Let's see how much thicker. 4 times as thick? Yeah. So I think it's the thickness of this stuff here, which is the 1/4 inch. So yeah. So that'll work really good. I don't think I need to make it quite as long as I did before. Yeah, I don't need to make it as long, so I won't do that. There's no reason to make it longer than it needs to be. So I think I'll just start by cutting this, and that'll be the beginning of our project. So what I've done is I've taken the scrap piece I've got here, and I cut the width that I need for one of these panels off, and then I just cut it in half, like that. So it's just a tiny bit shorter, but it's still as long as it can be while using the most of my material. So that's going to end up making it hang out past just a little bit. That'll be good. So now what I've got to do is taking the backing off one side, and I've got to figure out how I'm going to glue this here so it's level, because I'm going to be doing one side at a time and just letting it take its time and do a nice slow glue up. So before I glue it up, I need to sand the surface of the inside that I'm going to be gluing to. And that's going to be doing 2 things. First off, it's going to make it so the glue is going to stick better. There's a special smooth surface glue called Roo glue, like kangaroo. And it works really good, but sanding it helps it work even better. And it'll also help it make it so that it diffuses the light better. So I'm just going to go ahead and sand the whole thing. And not just the edges. So here's a close-up of the sanded one. I'm hoping it's getting it all right. It's having a hard time focusing on just this pure white surface. But there's the sanded one, and here's the glossy one. So it's a huge difference. And so the light should be dispersed, and the glue will stick way better to that. One other thing I need to do before I glue it all up is to attach this little 12-volt pigtail dongle. And that's because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm stuck choosing between having a light or having my stereo. So the stereo actually has a lovely set of 12 volts, but 4 12-volt plugs. So I can have up to 4 lovely accessories connected to my stereo, potentially including the light. So I could just shove a plug down into the cord and try to line that up, and that'd be really difficult. So what's a lot easier is just to have a nice separate plug, probably on the side And so I just got to have it soldered on before I glue everything up, because I won't be able to get to it afterwards. So right now, it's just held together with hot glue. So I can probably just melt through it with the soldering iron to get my connections exposed. And then solder it. So let's make sure I get my solder. There we go, that's working. So I can get my positive there. And my negative over here. Is that loose or is that soldered? Cannot tell. We'll see if this works or if I'm just messing it up. Okay, there's that one. And hopefully that's still all connected. And it's really easy to test if I mess it up or not. All I need to do is grab a 12-volt power supply. There's 12 volts somewhere, but I've got a 9-volt that's at hand, and that looks like it's still working. And let's see which ways it go. There we go. They're both still working, and that's good. So now I'm ready to glue. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start by gluing. Let's see, I'll start on this side, just in case I decide I need to change the plug. I won't be tied into that quite yet. So just putting a nice big fat bead of glue down. This scrap piece from the old side is actually perfect for a spacer. I'm going to take this carabiner off so it's not getting stuck underneath anywhere. Just line that up best I can. And just let it sit like that for about 20 minutes while I work on the backpack. Okay, so we're working on the backpack and the roto-rig. First thing I want to do is take a look at the backpack itself and see if there's any convenient way to strap in a block of wood. So there's a few things going on in here. There's this pocket here, this bigger pocket here. There's a weird sleeve thing, which I have no idea what that's for. A Velcro that goes around the sleeve thing. But nothing really to Velcro or strap in a wooden piece of wood. A wooden piece of wood, ladies and gentlemen. So probably the best thing to do is just to get something that's as tight fitting as possible to take up as much space as I can. So it looks like the best thing to do is probably just to use the back, because I can see the seam, and to get a good measurement, and make a template and just cut a piece of wood the size of the back as closely as I can. So it's going to be 7.5 at the bottom and 8.5 at the top. So let's do that. Okay, here we go. So I've got 2 pieces of wood here. This is the piece of wood I'm going to use. The backpack is 17.5 inches tall. This is 16 inches tall. So I think that's good enough. So what I'm going to do is, so it's 8.5 inches and 7.5 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a 1-inch taper. To do that, I'm going to mark 1 inch here, 2 inches here, and I'm going to get some of my good old carpet tape. Something like that. A few little bits of it. And line this edge up. Like that. Flip it around. And this is now my straight edge for cutting on the table saw. So that way it'll cut straight. So it'll cut straight along this edge, right through here, which will give this side a taper. And I'll be doing that over here. All right, so since this piece of wood is 16 inches tall, we're going to be getting out of it, I'll measure 16 inches from the bottom here, which goes up to about here. And at that point, it's about 8 inches wide. So I've set my fence to 9 inches because I added an extra inch when I did the measuring for the gap. And I've also lowered the blade so it's just barely cutting into the particle board, and it'll just barely cut all the way through our plywood. So let's get this going. Move fast. That looks pretty close, pretty reasonable. So the bottom of the backpack is rounded and the corners of my piece of wood are very much not rounded. So it looks really weird. I don't know if you can tell. So this edge is square. That's a square edge, and this is off square. So this is not square. And this edge is square, and that edge is very much not square. But that shouldn't matter. Also, these are rounded, so what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to round this bottom anyway. So it's not gonna really matter what the angles are at the bottom, and at the top, it doesn't go all the way to the top, so that these top angles don't touch anything, so they don't matter either. So here we go. There. So that way I'm getting just the length. It's butting up against here. It's butting up against the sides, and that's good. So I'm going to just roughly round this off on this bandsaw, and then take it over here to this belt sander down there. And that's plenty. So let's see how well this fits now. It shoves in, right? And it's snug at the bottom. It's pretty snug on the sides, but it doesn't quite get in at the top. So I need to be able to get this fabric pulled up and around the top. So I'm gonna need to round these off as well. But the more I can keep, I think the tighter I can make it. So I'm actually going to use the inside radius of the tape roll this time. There we go. Right? And then I'm going to cut that off and we'll see where that leaves us. Alright, so let's take a look. Round off the top. Shove it in the bottom. Now, as you remember, it's skewed. So this bottom right corner is down, and this top left corner is up. So this one's taller than this one, so I'm going to do that one first. Shove that in, and then now, let's see if I can get around this one, or if you need to remove material at all. It looks like it'll work. Just going to make sure it's not folded down on itself. Very tight, but it works. Okay, so there we go. So this is pretty snug in there, and if I tighten down the backpack and tighten that down, and I think that piece of wood is pretty well and good in there. So if I take this and if I put it on my back, and if I strap it down, I think if I pull the shoulders down, it'll winch the board in there even more. So I put this waist strap on. This waist of a waist strap it never gets used. Come on. Okay. Okay. Waist strap is on, and these are on. And I think that board is pretty solidly held in there. But I think we can do a little bit better, make it even more solid in there. And, that's actually really good. All right, so the pipe, I'm pretty sure it's going to go something like that. So this is a much longer pipe than I'm going to want. It's going to only want to be to behind my shoulder. But let's see how that looks. So let's see here. All right, let's get this up so it's looking at me. Okay, so there's with a pipe in it. Pipe. I think it's going to be sticking to the right, so that the camera is kind of behind my right shoulder, or the pivot for the camera is behind my right shoulder. And so the camera's going to swing. It's going to be low when it's over here looking at my face. And it's going to swing and be high over there. So if it's going to be behind my shoulder, like where it is right now, that means that it's going to be crossing across the plate diagonally like that. Let's just do a quick test run. So I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a couple holes and screw this down to this plate like here. And then I'm going to put the backpack on. Like that. Strap it down and grab this thing at the top and kind of torque it around to see how much it moves and how secure it is to my back. And that'll be give me my idea of what to do next. But first, before I do that, I actually need to go back to this thing real quick. This glue is taking longer to dry than I thought, and I need to keep it moving, otherwise I'm going to be here all night. So I'm going to go and use clamps to clamp and do both sides at once. So how I'm going to do that is start with the clamps, of course. So here we go. Moving right along here. Glue this down nice and gluey. And put this down on here. Secure. And I'm just going to use 2 clamps. Perfect. Yeah, this will be a big help. Yes, perfect. So that way it holds itself up. I don't have to use wedges. And you can see here, I hope that lined up right. Yeah, you can see. So if you can see, unfortunately it's kind of skewed in there. So it's closer to this side than that side. That's all right. That's because of how I mounted the black things. So how I mounted this box to this top plate, it's this that is crooked, not these. So I'll just let that dry for a bit. And okay, we can get back to this now. I'll just start by grabbing one screw. I've already drilled the holes in the pipe, so I've just got to put this thing to the plate like that. And then on this side I'm going to have a spacer so that I can, if there's no spacer and this is right up against the wood, then I won't be able to get the backpack around that. So let's make sure that's all lined up, and I think I need to use one of these longer ones like this one. That seems good, not sticking through. That's really really on there. So let's put it on the backpack and see how that is. Shoves in. This just goes on. A little tough still, but you know, I'm not gonna be, oh, I think it's, something's making it harder than it was last time. Is it that pipe being shoved in there? It is definitely harder. There it goes. Okay, then tighten that up, and then, just looking up here, put it on. and tighten down these straps, tighten down these straps, and so it can wiggle a little bit side to side, not too bad. If I were to have, there's a strap missing across the chest, which is gone, but if I was to have that, would that help? That versus that, yes, that would definitely help a little bit, but I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. Just moving around like that, it's really secure already. If I just tighten that a little bit more, if this had actual padded straps instead of just a nylon strap, I think that would help a lot. Because right now it's just kind of sinking into my guts. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. It's pretty secure. As I bend and move, it stays with me. The one thing that's gonna be a problem is if I bend over like that, put my hands down, kind of pulls this into my stomach a bit more than I'd like. So it needs to be loose enough where I can do that. So at that point, it's still all right, I think. But yeah, normally putting your hands down, you want to get down with your knees, not with your stomach. So I think that's probably pretty good. I don't know if we need anything else in there to help keep this the plate secured to the backpack, because the entire backpack is moving. It's not the plate moving in the backpack. It's the backpack moving on my back. So I think that's pretty good so far. It does move a little bit on in the backpack, but you know, pretty good. So I think that's all I can really get done today. So that was a big step, getting just this done. Now that I know how this is working, I can focus on everything else. So when I bring my schematics and plans, I can actually have something to work off of. So there we go. All right, so let's get this finished up. So the next step is to measure this total width here, which is 1/8 of an inch under 3 inches, because that's how I roll. Perfect. And then the last step I need to do here is to, you will never guess it, drill a hole in one of these, because I've got to have a hole. Let's be careful when we move this, nice and delicately. I've got to have a hole for the dongle. So I got to find the size I need. Okay, so here's an identical dongle, an identi-dongle, and so I'm going to use this to figure out which drill bit will fit. So we go over here and I stick this down on this table precariously, and I take a look over in that direction, and what I do is I just see, looks like that one too small, this one too big, this one just right. Is that the correct drill? Yep, found the drill bit I need. It's this one. Okay, next step is to release the tiger. Okay, next step is to mark where the center of the hole is going to be. So I've got this whole space there, so the center of this space is on that line, and I'm going to be gluing it down that way, so let me mark it on this side, and then the center is going to be, could be anywhere along there, so let's go ahead and put it just right here in this corner, and that spot there will be where I drill. Remember this piece of wood? Of course you do. This is the scrap that we use to cut the tapered piece of wood for the backpack. So we'll reuse that scrap to drill the hole for this plexiglass. And I'll start with a small pilot hole. piloted. And I'll finish off with this larger hole. Oh, that's good. It's getting hot, so it's melting the glue. So what I'll do is I'll just get some Windex and spray the bit and spray the plastic. Perfect. Clean it up a little bit. Okay. There we go. That has got a hole through it. Look at that. Okay. Next step. We've got to glue all this together. So, probably what I want to do is overhang from the edge. Nope, no. This is good. I'll just have it right here. And what I'll do is I will glue the edges with the roux glue, right? Just glob the edges. Give it all what it needs. Okay, then I'm going to grab the dongle and shove it through the dongle hole. Pull it through. Right, you see? And then I'm going to goozle the glue around the dongle hole. And then as I push it in, it'll pull glue down the hole with it. Like that. And let me get a paper towel and wipe down what I can. I'll use the Windex that I already have here. And just get that extra glue off. And then I'll just use this stuff. This stuff is not very gluable. So glue won't stick that very easy, so I'll just stick that on there. Flip this around. Right? And then I'll glue up this side, which will be easier because there's no doodly thing on there. There's no dongle doodling off of it. Okay. So here we go. Net and put it down like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a big clamp to handle this side. So let's take that like that. Take that like this. And clamp that like that. And that way I can micro tweak it on this side. And then what I can do is then take these little clamps and make sure that these sides are lined up right, and clamp these down. So I can pull that up, push that down, and then tighten it real good, then flip the whole thing around. Do the same thing over here. Tighten it up, line that up, pull that up. So there we go. And double check that everything's still working. Perfect. And I can't plug it in here because the clamp's in the way, but I trust it's still good. So there we go. All I've got to do now is wait a bit for this to dry, and I can take off the paper, and it should be all good to go, except I just got roux glue on my shirt right here, which I do not want roux glue on my shirt, so I'll just get that off. get off a shirt. Hopefully that's enough. Okay, there we go. Now I've just got to clean up my mess, and hopefully in that time it'll be dry enough to take off the clamps. All right, so it should be dry enough now to take the clamps off and take the paper off and see what we have. So, which is the carabiner making that sound? Pretty good. Very good. There we go. There's the light, and let's see how well it lights up. Ta-da! So it's not totally diffused. You can still, yeah, there you go. You can still see the LEDs, but it's not harsh to look at. So that is very good. And then, it's all wigging out. Sweet. So there we go. We got a nice new lamp, backpack, ready to go for the next step. And that's the end of today. So there we go. Longboard technology, over and out.